Thank you for your interest in the Retained Recruiter show powered by iIntro. Before the show starts, I have a small favour to ask of you. Our goal is to provide you with the most insightful, helpful and practical recruitment knowledge and know-how from the best in the recruitment industry. If you like this channel and enjoy watching our content, hit the subscribe button to get notified as soon as we upload a new episode. Thank you again, and as ever, we're rooting for your success. Now, time for the show.
Hello and welcome to the Retained Recruiter show. My name is James.
And my name is Jo, and welcome everybody. Nice to see you all. And as you can see again this week, James, this is great. We're going for a sprint of spectacular guests. We are not alone, are we, James?
No, we're not alone. We're joined today by Lysha Holmes. And if you've not met Lysha before, where on earth have you been? She's everywhere. But just to give you a little bit of a background, Lysha's professional life began in marketing and sales in Lancashire, because that's two of you over that side of the world. She worked for a property company in Manchester. Then she worked for Britvic Soft Drinks in the Midlands. And then, like a lot of us, she stumbled upon an advert for a recruitment role. And the rest, as I say, is history. So she began her recruitment career back in 1998. Sorry, this is 88. Sorry.
Just aged you by 10 years.
That's when I started in recruitment in 1988. Sorry,
no, that's
forgive
58,
me.
1958.
Whoa, steady on, Joe. I never made a mistake. You don't have to rub it in. But that was down the West Midlands for a national recruitment company, fast becoming the top biller. Now, since 2005, Lysha has earned an amazing reputation of being a candid, covert, and expert within the rec-to-rec market, championing best practice and ethics at all times. And with the team also focused on London, and the West Yorkshire area, Lysha continues to partner the best recruitment talent in the Northwest. In 2020, Lysha launched a podcast aimed at leaders and recruiters alike. And that's what I mean. If you've not seen that, where have you been? She's got a global audience that now tunes into her weekly shows with over 200 episodes and live shows too. So follow the Recruiters Recruitment Podcast. And that's, I think, I'm sure I've missed many things about the fact you live in, work in the Northwest and lots of other pieces, Lysha. But hopefully people should know that you really are a great guest to have on board. And what we're hoping for today is some of that candid conversation that you have. So no punches, held back really on this one. So we're looking forward to the conversation today, aren't we, Joe? What are we going to cover?
Yes, yeah, we're very much looking forward to it. So we're talking about, if this isn't the biggest challenge that businesses face, always, but definitely going into 2024, then I don't know what is. So we're talking about attracting and retaining your recruitment dream team. So in this episode, we're going to be covering how to attract great talent for your recruitment business, what the challenges are when it comes to retaining staff and how to overcome them. And then we're going to talk about the pitfalls of maybe not having an effective onboarding plan. That's really important. And how to set your people up for success. So welcome, Lysha. It's lovely to have you.
It's so lovely to be here, and I always get a little bit blushy when people give me that sort of introduction. So thank you so much for inviting me on. I respect and adore both of you, and I think this show is just absolutely wonderful. So for everyone that's joining us, whether it's live or as a recording, thank you so much for participating. And for anyone who doesn't actually know me, go and connect, go and follow me. But most importantly, understand that, with 25 years of recruitment and most of that in rec-to-rec actually, I have earned a reputation for being candid with compassion, but I tend to say what other people maybe don't say about the market. And I'm hoping that's why you've invited me on today, because I will not hold any punches, basically. I'll be honest. If anyone's got any questions, get them in comments. Happy to answer anything.
Yes, absolutely. We can see the comments that people put in. So we are streaming live onto various profiles. So my profile, Lysha's profile, James's profile, the iIntro profile, which is fantastic. So if you have any questions, stick them in the comments. I'll keep my eye on them as we go through, and then hopefully ask Lysha some questions. Ask us some questions. But James, what are we kicking off with? What's our first burning question for Ms. Holmes?
I want to kick off really and ask Lysha, because obviously we have the unique benefit here, Lysha, with you as well. The three of us on this one, of actually talking to lots of recruitment companies, and many recruitment business owners, they're in isolation and they don't see it. And obviously this big challenge of attracting talent. So I want to, before we get into some of the really candid stuff, let's give them a little bit of hope. So why don't you share with them, some of the things they can do to sort of look outside their own bubble and sort of see that they're not alone, really.
I think that's a really good starting point, actually, where I think, and I'm not sort of blowing smoke up my own arse here, but I think a really good rec-to-rec should be going above and beyond to their community of clients and imparting that advice, being that coach, being that support, to those recruitment leaders, because very often, particularly owner managed businesses, which I imagine a lot of your audience are, you are a silo. And it's not about not discussing it with competitors. There are so many community groups out there now, but you don't necessarily know what is going on. And we also live in a world, especially on social media, where we tend to share positive, I don't want to say boastful, but, you know, maybe posts that want to attract and engage people for really positive reasons. But when things are really dire, we're maybe not aware that actually it's dire for everyone. And I think it's so important to contextualize what certainly the last few trading years have meant to leaders that are watching now, that, you know, we are at a really critical point, I think, as an industry, that this topic is literally the most important topic that you should be talking and thinking about right now. And if you are listening and watching this and thinking it's not going to affect me, we're okay, you are really naive. That's the reality. And your ability to retain your best talent is going to, your arrogance to not actually think about what could the pitfalls be, will potentially find you in a position where you're losing all your best talent. And that is actually happening right now. That is what's happening right now. And we can talk about my pitfall if you like. I obviously can't give names away, but that's why people come and approach Rec2X. But I think it's so important to start that as a starting point, James, because, you know, I have that conversation more than anything, that people generally don't like to share their vulnerability, especially with their peer group. And I think that narrative has changed significantly since COVID, particularly. But when it comes to commercial performance, we tend to we want to talk about the good bits, not the bad bits. So I think this is really important to have a level playing field.
Yeah, I think that is really fascinating in terms of, and when I said no holes barred, you already started calling people naive and other things. So that's great. Well done, you. No, that's good. That's what people want to hear. They, no sugarcoating on this particular piece. That's what we're going to get to. No. So let's look at. Sorry, Joe, if you just want to carry on this question, then you can sort of jump in with the question. I just want to, we've got two things here, because one thing that you spoke about there, which is very dear to our hearts here at iIntro, is it's not just about recruitment. We're going to talk about that, of course. It's actually about the retention of your people. And that's where you said that naivety, if you think it's not going to affect you, because there's somebody is trying to poach your staff. If they're good, they're being tapped on the shoulder. Yes, they might ignore it, but if it keeps on happening, eventually you turn your head, don't you? Because you get frustrated. So let's talk about some of the retention issues and what we can do about that.
Let me just tell you something. So we are actually the only Rec2X that don't send in mails at all. We are 100% inbound. We can talk about that on another show, how we've created a business like that. We literally don't headhunt. We don't target people. However, every single candidate we speak to gets tapped up, to use the colloquial term, every single day by Rec2X. Their inbox is full, which is why actually, to me, intuitively, it doesn't necessarily work, but we'll leave that there for a minute. So to think that your best talent are not having conversations, whether it's I'm not interested, at some point they might have a really crappy day, and that timed in-mail will go, do you know what, it's worth a quick chat, even if it's just a quick chat. So I think that's when I say naive, that's what I'm talking about, because I've earned my reputation for integrity by having this next conversation, which is, why on earth would anybody that's good leave their job right now? I mean, why would you leave your job right now? Because we've had a really tumultuous year, cost of living crisis, conflicts all over the world. It's just a really challenging time to be in recruitment, full stop. So why would you leave if you're doing well? And I think that generally people leave because of leadership. And actually, the caveat to that is poor leadership. So you might think that we've got an amazing team, we're looking after people, but actually, are you having that dialogue with them? Are you assuming that those people are feeling well looked after? And I'm not talking about rubbing egos here. I'm just talking about, having an open communication with your talent who have maybe been with you for a long time. It is like having a marriage or a long-term relationship and not having regular conversations or having regular date nights, whatever. You just need to check in with people to ensure that actually they are feeling respected and admired and appreciated. That word doesn't get talked about enough. And I think that's where, the reason that people come to a Rec2X or go and speak to people is because it is simply put, they don't feel that they've been communicated with. That whether it's they've enforced, they've mandated back in the office, whether it's the bonus scheme's outdated, whether it's, we're being forced to do whatever it might be, whatever's changing and shifting, because businesses ebb and flow, it is down to lack of communication. That's what it ultimately comes down to. So I think it's really important for those, even who've got good tenure, don't seem to have high attrition rates, of which there are many companies like that. And, I applaud you, but you're probably the companies that are having those conversations regularly.
Yeah, and I think that's really important. The number one reason why people leave businesses is the management, isn't it? You know, management issues, culture, environment, fit. You know, it's why people leave, why your top performers leave, are obviously the people that you don't want to leave.
They're not leaving. They're not leaving.
Performance.
They're not leaving. Yeah, they're not leaving because they've had a blip in their performance. Because anyone that's had any sort of tenure in recruitment, we all know that it does ebb and flow. And I don't care what anyone says, it does. Where if you've had a holiday or there's IR35's impact, whatever it might be, people actually, and I'm talking about top talent here, they don't leave because they don't enjoy their market anymore. They don't leave because they don't enjoy recruitment anymore. They are leaving because their leadership, whether it's their next leadership level or, you know, C-suite, are not communicating something with them, whatever that might be. So it does come down to that base level reason.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to talk a bit more in a second about what else can businesses do, your feedback, what you're seeing in the industry, what people are doing to retain their top staff. But what's your, let's say, for example, someone does leave. Typically, we don't learn from our mistakes, do we, as businesses? But also that's because we don't gain the feedback from the people as they're leaving. So if we can't stop them from leaving, what's your take on exit interviews?
Well, they're so, there's no harmony with it at all, and it's total disparity, like there is with everything, by the way, in recruitment. If there's no one size fits all, there isn't with commission schemes, there isn't with anything, with any decision making process. That all we can ever do is have a fundamental best practice level of, you know, if you have got somebody coming to you and leaving, they've already got their job, they've already sort of gone through that emotional journey, which finding a new job is really stressful. Shouldn't be if you've got a good partner with you, but it is very stressful. It's emotional. You've probably had to jump through a number of hoops to get the job that you want. I genuinely think that if somebody sat in front of you and they are giving you valid reasons, you know, you have to understand those reasons, take them on board, be an active listener as to the reasons why. It possibly is or isn't about you. It could be some of the other reasons we talked about. It could be hygiene factors. You've maybe had to make the decision to go back to mandating full-time in the office due to productivity, whatever the reasons might be. I realise I'm cross-channeling a million different topics here. But I think exit interviews are such a vital part of understanding actually why people do work for you. Because something will have changed to make that person take that rec-to-rec call or put their, you know, go and speak to somebody they used to work with. So it's actually going back to that binary, you know, minutiae reason of why they were working for you in the first place. And I think that if you don't have that dialogue, again, you're never going to truly understand. And you have action points then. I'm not suggesting for 1 minute we advocate counter-offers. I'm also not in the school of thought that counter-offers are bad. And, you know, I've occasionally seen it and experienced it myself when I've been, you know, coaching a candidate where it's actually has been the right decision to stay, and they've then flourished because of that exit interview, because they've said, actually, these are the reasons why, and they've given them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
So,
and then they've been listened to, and then they felt appreciated, which is probably what they wanted in the first place.
Which is all they wanted in the first place. That is very often, I mean, so often in recruitment, you know, it is a simple process. And ultimately, human beings, generally speaking, are quite simple in terms of what we actually need and what we desire from people. And I think it often just comes down to good communication. It is as simple as that. And I think if all those other factors that can contribute to somebody thinking, oh, I might just go and see what else is on the market, if they actually feel respected and appreciated, they're more likely to stay loyal. And it's the impact of how you treat that exit interview on your other members of the team that people often look past, and they don't see that. And I've had so many candidates over the years who've come to me, not because of how they've per se been treated, but they've watched and observed other leavers be really disrespected. And it just that like boggles my mind. Like, show respect, don't badmouth people. If they are going to go, let them go respectfully. You know, their legacy should also be your legacy of how you speak about them once they've gone. Don't start slagging them off. It's not classy at all. People are watching you all the time.
Very true. Very true.
I think there's a couple of things I just want to sort of tease out a little bit more, because in recruitment you've got two. I'm going to polarize this. There's two camps. Right? You've got the poor performers and you've got the high performers. And when you lose a low performer, you again, I'm just speaking out loud here. I'm not saying this how you should react because of what you just said a moment ago about respecting people. But yeah, sometimes, well, so what? They were rubbish. Yeah, and you'll hear that said. And we've got Joe and I've got a school of thought that said, you know, when they came to you, they weren't rubbish. because you wouldn't have hired them if they're rubbish, because you know, we're not meant to be bad recruiters. So if someone's poorly performing, sort of look in the mirror. Yeah, there's things that we can do about that, and there are tools that we use, because one of the things that we do here at iIntro is, you know, we help people pitch, win, and deliver retained assignments to their audience. But one of the our main tool that we use, the iIntro platform, is also designed for internal recruitment, as in the people you're recruiting. You use that best practice that you share with employers, bring it into your own environment to do that, and then find out why people, you know, start to understand them, because you can then manage them differently. So I'm just going to park that one for a second. The second thing is, you know, we all know how disappointing it is when you lose a top performer, and that, Lysha, I think is when you need to question, why am I losing somebody so good? Because that really hurts you. And that's why you come back to your exit interviews and start trying to determine, why did that great person leave? Because it probably isn't for more money per se. It's not going to be the thing. There's something has happened, and you have to get back. And it's that analysis of what's changed in my business, and has something happened to me personally if I'm the leader of that business? But there are things that we need to challenge in there, Joe, aren't there?
Yeah. Can I just make a point as well? Because I've just been looking in the comments section. Hopefully James is back, Fiona. But thanks for flagging that up. Ian Garfield makes an amazing point here. So, what is the danger to the wider team / business of keeping or pandering to toxic high performance? So,
I like this.
I know, I do.
High performer from a revenue point of view does not mean high performer from a behavioural point of view. I love this question. Do you keep your top billers if they are toxic to your environment? What do you do about that?
Well,
that can mean you lose people who you don't want to lose because of the environment that's being created, maybe.
I mean, there's so many different ways to answer this. I have to say, it did distract me a little bit, because I did see that question and thought, oh, that's a brilliant question, Ian. And I was getting really excited. This is my view on it. And I'm not saying I'm right, by the way. I might be wrong, but this is my view when leaders have we've just had this discussion before. I think you have to ask, first of all, how long have they been toxic for? Why are they being toxic? What's changed? Because people... Would you have hired them if they were toxic in the first place? How soon after them joining you did they become toxic? If it's a behaviour that's developed over a period of time, something has happened to make that person behave in that way. We don't suddenly become bad. So if that's the case, I would actually remove that person and understand and coach them. And if that is something that cannot be changed by you as the leadership team, my honest view is you don't keep toxic, you don't keep a bad apple, because over a longer period of time, that high performer will actually have a bigger impact on your value proposition, on the culture of your business. And if that is really important to you from a longevity point of view, one toxic high performer can be replaced, in my opinion, and nurtured out of other people. So I think you have to kind of go back a step and understand why that person is behaving in that way. It could very well be that they're toxic around you as the leader. I don't know. Well, yeah. But I don't think you should ever face these things at face value. I think you have to go back a step and really understand the why. I think that's obviously a key to a lot of people's behaviour. There's things going on there. Maybe they're not feeling communicated with. Maybe they're not feeling appreciated. It could be that they're a nasty piece of poo and you need to get rid.
Yeah, I mean, there's an arrogance level that sometimes comes with people. You don't see it until they reach a level of success, and then think they are, I can do what I want because I'm untouchable. And the reality is nobody is untouchable in that case, particularly if they're being toxic.
And then it's managing expectations, and with anything, when you're managing expectations as a leader, the expectation is I expect you to behave in a way that other people will admire and respect and communicate with. And we don't have any, we do not allow this sort of behaviour to continue. It's managing expectations, isn't it? It doesn't matter what somebody's billing, in my opinion. But I understand what you're saying, and I would never sort of make that stereotype that top performers become this way. I don't think that's the case at all. I think very often top performers become amazing. I know it's being facetious. I do just want to make a point, because I don't want to run out of time on this, that very often top performers are actually very frustrated entrepreneurs. And I think there's a very missed opportunity, and I'm seeing this myself, believe it or not, this year, despite the year that we've had, I've supported more startups this year than I have in the last 5.
Interesting.
Now, and they are all ex-top performers, as in they've been top performers in their current role. So I think that a lot of companies are missing this vital part of the communication package, in that what are you doing to ensure that you don't lose? If that person is so driven that they want to run their own business, then you can turn them into an entrepreneur.
Enable it.
Enable it. I don't want anyone to miss out on their top talent leaving, because actually that's something that you could pivot into your business.
But again, but not everybody's capable of actually developing them into an interest. So, but it's really interesting. I just want to sort of go off at a different tangent because of your where you work, and just sort of ask you a question. So, we've got this toxic high performer. We've decided to exit them. What's and sorry, so this might be a really naive question because I'm not in your market. What's the validity of things like restrictive covenants at the moment? Because there you go, you kicked out your top performer. How are they holding up?
Well, my caveat is always I'm not a lawyer, and that's the first thing I always say. Go and get your contract checked, get it checked, send it to me. I often get the client that's potentially hiring them to check the contract for them. I think the general consensus is you should always respect your restrictive covenant, because to me that's what integrity really means. I think anything beyond 6 months is ridiculous, and I don't think it's actually enforceable. But I would say that certainly because of the volume of startups that we're seeing, restrictive covenants are becoming much more enforceable. And rightly so, they are there to protect. And I think that most ethical recruiters do respect that and honour that. And it's very, very rare that I hear that, but we'll just get someone else to call them. I think that's really naive. But I always have that caveat that I am not a lawyer, and nor do I want to be. So go and get it checked.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's a little tip for everybody, just to have a look at that, because it's about protecting your own business as well. If you've got something like that going on, because inevitably, sometimes there are underhand activities that do take place. So just to watch out for that. Joe, let's get back to back on track, because that was a little bit of a diversion there. Just it came into my mind. I wrote it down when Lysha said something earlier on.
I mean, look, if we hadn't diverted, I don't think we're doing this properly today, are we? We're probably going to stay here for about 4 hours, Lysha. It would be probably a marathon session. I'm going to ask you for your top tips for retaining staff. So what do you think it is that is retaining people? But I suppose the flip side of that, we work with businesses to enable them to make more informed hiring decisions. Because if you bring the right people in the right way, into the right jobs, in the right culture and environment, then they're not going to leave anyway. So we have this sort of saying that retention starts with recruitment, being able to recruit and therefore attract the right people in the first place. So what would you say businesses need to be doing, other than using you, of course, that's a given. What should they be doing to not just attract people, but attract and select the right people for their businesses?
I think, again, that we need to go back a step. We need to understand why we're hiring. We need to understand who we're missing in the current business and who is going to be vital. When I say who, I don't necessarily mean what desk or which competitor. I mean who, as a person, what behaviours are we going to be looking for? Because I think it's so important that we go beyond a CV or, competency-based questions. I think this is a lot deeper. So I think being able to answer those two questions first. So who do we need to take us on our journey, and who is missing? So we can actually look at things, really important topic that just often gets sidelined as a tick box exercise, diversity and inclusion. I think it's really important that for ourselves as an industry, we don't just, say these things to our clients to, win points with the HR director. I think it's really important to walk and talk. Pay lip service. I can't think of the right. That is. I told you it's the time of day when my brain's on downtime. It's so important that we actually do this meaningfully, and that we create a success story for ourselves as an industry, that we are the benchmark of what true diversity and inclusion looks like, and we're still doing it really badly. I don't just mean gender balance, which is still pretty poor, from a female empowerment point of view, from a neurodiversity point of view. I think that we need to start really thinking about that. And, I still often have a conversation where it's, well, we're looking for graduates, but why? Because that, to me, is not being inclusive to Generation Z that cannot afford to go to bloody university, and so things like that. So we just need to stop hiring in our own. As amazing as it would be to have a room full of Joe, James, and Lyshas, we have to stop hiring in our own image, and we have to start thinking who is missing. And then for me, the third thing. Oh, whose is that dog?
I mean, the door has gone. You can tell we're live. That's my doorbell / dog bell.
If it's a child / dog, it'll be Joe. Who are we hiring? Who is missing from the table? And then I want to really, I do genuinely think that having a partnership with a good rec direct, and obviously I can't possibly service absolutely every client, but I actually think it's really important, because I think you get so much value from a rec direct that you truly partner with, because they will give you insights, they will give you feedback, they will coach you on what makes your business attractive to the diverse talent pool. And actually, that objective, impartial voice is probably the most important part of the missing piece of the jigsaw for so many recruitment companies, because you're just hearing, if you're doing it internally and you're doing it yourself, and that's fine, by the way. I think, creating an internal referral scheme, whatever, but you're only ever hearing your own voices. So I think it's important to get that feedback, and not just one about speak to what's our brand like in the market, what people saying about us in the market is so important.
But some of that, Lysha, will go back to what you're saying about people when they leave, because then the people who left because of they heard what you said about the people who left, it perpetuates, doesn't it, going down through that side of things. So I think it's all down to you personally. But there's also something that you said that's really important there, because what you said is that partner, you and others like you in that market space, you're coaching consultative, which is part of the service that many people who are listening in today. That's how they are with their clients. That's how you are with your clients. To be that third party who can listen objectively to some of the challenges and give advice. I think coming out that way is really helpful. So these are things that we know we can help our clients. So it's always one of those oddities that sometimes people think that I'm recruiting and I'm a recruiter. Why do I need a recruiter to help me recruit a recruiter?
I'm going to. I said a bit contrary, and I think that. It's a little bit contrary, because obviously everyone knows that I absolutely adore recruitment, and it's my third child, basically. I think that recruitment leaders generally can be quite appalling at recruiting for themselves, because 100%. We're magpies. We love to be sold to. We love things that are shiny and new, and we're generally very positive people, and we just we're willing somebody in an interview to do really well, and it's like, oh, you work at a competitor, that's amazing. And actually, we very rarely do all the things that your show's about and your business is about and my business is about, which is just slow down and just think about what you're actually doing and where strategically we're at right now. Because very often a lot of your listeners, and I know it's the case for a lot of my clients, you've grown accidentally through, success has come to you because you were a great biller or whatever it might be. But actually, if you are at a critical point now in 2024, I think based on, what's happening in our business right now, certainly over the last quarter, I think, I'm not saying it's going to bounce back because I hate those acronyms, but I just think we are set for it will return to being a very recruiter-led rec-to-rec market. It will. It's been a very challenging year for most recruitment. If all your listeners, I don't care what anyone says, it has been a challenging year. And I think we've earned the right to have a good year next year. But I actually think that is going to be the case. I don't think there'll be the salary hikes for 2022. You'll be pleased to know. Please don't let that happen again to our industry. But I think that what you've said there, James, is absolutely accurate. And I think that it's so important to really take seriously what I'm advising here. You might not be hiring right now, but maybe 3-6 months, maybe you'll win a project, or you'll win these retained projects. You'll need researchers, you'll need delivery people. But please ask yourself those two questions. Who do I need and who is missing? Because if you can't answer those two questions, you can't hire the best talent.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
And I think it's all about putting in those, the phrase that we use all the time, Joe, is, multiple layers. It's not just about a CV and competency questions. It's multiple layers of assessment that you can put in place. And as I say, that's why we practice what we preach with our clients, and they have the tool to do that. So that's good. Listen, if you want to get in touch with Lysha, then do please make sure you look her up on LinkedIn. I don't think we've got a flag going across which says how to contact her, but in terms of do engage with her, because definitely worth listening. Hopefully the comments you're hearing from Lysha today are going to whet your appetite to go back and listen to more, or any of those 200 episodes, which are all well worth a watch again. No doubt.
Your episode number 1 is Joe Gregory. Woo! And forevermore. Yeah, Joe was my first.
Did anything happen on that?
Yes, because it was in lockdown. So I think we all had children and postmen at the door and all sorts.
Yeah.
Joe must still be in lockdown because that dog's still barking somewhere, isn't it?
I know. Can I just before we go, I really want to just make a couple of really important points in that I know that leaders are the most, you have gone through, I think, the hardest journey. I genuinely say this, and that's one of the reasons I set up my podcast, because I think leaders needed a safe space and to share. I think you've got to be kind to yourself. Don't beat yourself up if you have got a top talent that's leaving you. Ask yourself these questions, learn from it. I don't know if I am allowed to swear because I know I was told off camera I couldn't, but don't be a dick about it. Be kind, because one thing that I want to make as a point here is that I often see boomerangs. I've seen a lot of boomerangs this year. And if you do the right thing with those, that, you know, top talent does say, look, I'm going to go and set up my own, or I'm going to go and try and work for a competitor or whatever. Oh my gosh, well, I wish you all the best with it. Don't be a dick about it, because the chances are they might come back. You know, it does happen. I've seen a lot of it this year.
The grass isn't always greener, is it? And sometimes people maybe need to go and experience that, particularly if you've grown your own and they've been with you for that entire time. They've no idea what the outside world is like. But I think you're right. Yeah, don't be a dick. There's no room for egos, is there? When you're running your own business, your own recruitment business. And yes, I absolutely agree with you. I think recruitment directors and owners are probably the worst at recruiting for themselves, because they take it personally and they do it subjectively. So yeah, get some help with it, definitely. And you know, get some help. We've got 50 odd shows now, Retained Recruiter show. Lysha's got over 200 shows. Your last show was live in Manchester, wasn't it? So your podcast live, which was fantastic. That went well.
It did. We are at the moment, we're having a few technical issues trying to get this 2-hour long YouTube video ready for public consumption, but I have to say it was a bit of a test to see whether we could actually do it, because we had 7 panel guests on in 2 hours, and it was actually such a success. We are going to take it on the road. So if you go and follow the Recruiters Recruitment podcast page on LinkedIn, obviously it's free for anyone to join. We share all our weekly episodes in there. Every Wednesday we share a new guest, and we will be going live again in 2024 for sure. So we cannot wait. And it's just been an absolute pleasure. And I'm glad that you've loved listening to it. Oh, I'm not even going there with AI. I'm real. Hello.
Wow, that is another 3 episodes in that.
I mean, listen, as you get to, I mean, Joe and I have known each other a really, really, really long time. We could literally talk for hours. And I mean, I've been in recruitment 25 years.
We can talk for hours. We can talk for hours, and we will get you back, because I think, you know, I think your forthrightness, and I mean that as a compliment, nothing more than less than that. I think your forthrightness is refreshing for people to hear. And I hope people have just heard a snippet today of the type of advice that you can give. And I say, if you want any support, do reach out to Lysha in a very important market. So listen, Lysha, thanks very much for joining us. We're looking forward to seeing you again already.
Yes,
so we're looking forward to seeing you back. So Joe, I think, are we done? Have you got anything to add?
No, do you know, Lysha, it's been brilliant. We will definitely have you back. I think it should be a quarterly thing, you know, with Lysha. There we are. But we appreciate you taking the time to come and speak with us today. And for those who have missed it today, you've missed a great session. It will be available on the replay as of tomorrow. So keep this link, and it'll be replayed tomorrow. But Lysha, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much, as always.
Thanks for having me, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Lovely to see you all. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.